All right, guys. So for those of you who are new to my channel, or maybe the title got your attention and are thinking about getting into the pigeon game, the sport, the fancy, however you want to look at it, I hope this video helps. But before we continue on, I want to give a special shout out to my brother John J. Some of you may also know him as Skywatcher. He tagged me to make this video. A few of us YouTubers have been tagging each other back and forth on telling our story, describing or telling how we got into the pigeons and how the love of pigeons came about. My story is simple. I got into it the old-fashioned way. I should say. Both my grandparents kept pigeons. I mentioned in the past videos that I am from the country of Romania. My family and I moved to the States when I was very young, so I don't really share the culture. I do speak the language, but I don't share that culture. I'm American at heart. But needless to say, my grandparents kept them. They lived on farms, so they kept them for both food and fancy. They love the birds, obviously. And I've been around the birds since as far as I can remember. I mean, second to raising my family, these pigeons have been the most rewarding part of my life. And again, I say that second to raising my family because there's nothing more important. But since as far as I can remember, pigeons have been part of my family. From all the ups and all the downs. And you guys might be asking what could possibly be a down of raising pigeons. Well, there's a lot of downs. Obviously, there's a lot of maintenance, there's a lot of care, things of that nature. Money goes into it, feed, medications, if you have issues, vaccinating year after year. It can get pretty expensive, but the rewards outweigh the negatives by far. Again, pigeons for me have been a lifesaver, and in the same token have almost taken my life. And I don't mean to make it sound all dramatic, but I literally almost died because of these pigeons. And let me explain. When I was about 4 years old, a few weeks away from my 5th birthday, and only a few weeks away from coming to the States, my uncle and I, you guys might know him as Romanian Dave, he's on 10 Flights Pigeon Station on Facebook. Him and I were in the attic of my granddad's barn. And a lot of those barns, the attic space is just made of just hay laid on top of itself. So you basically have to really watch your steps. You can obviously fall right through the rafters. And I was, like I said, I was about 4 years old, and we were making small talk, and he said, "Hey, you want to go see Granddad's pigeons?" And of course, I was more than excited to go see the pigeons. He's like, "All right, well, let's go get that ladder that was laying against the wall, and we'll go look at the pigeons." My granddad kept them in the loft space above his kitchen, which that's where the term pigeon loft derives from. So I immediately jump up, I ran to go get that ladder, and of course I fell right through that hay. Now I fell about 12 feet on top of a corn stalk cutter. Now let me paint a picture of that. It's a long stainless steel trough with what looks like an old reel mower set of blades at the end of it. And I fell on that, on my back, hit the ground, passed out. Within a few minutes, I was able to regain consciousness. I got up, I walked out, and when my mom saw me, crying obviously, covered in blood from head to toe, she immediately grabbed me, put me under the hand pump well, again, this is a farm, and started pumping water. And the moment that cold water hit my body, I just passed out. I woke up 3 days later, bandaged from my neck to my belt, on my grandma's wood burning stove. It was an old terracotta stove, and there was a spot on top where you can sit up there and enjoy the warmth. And again, this was a few weeks away, maybe a few days away from my 5th birthday, and only a few weeks away from coming to the States. Luckily enough, I didn't suffer any lasting issues. I do have a nice scar on my back because of it, and of course that put a bitter taste in my mom's mouth about the pigeons, because again, it's easy to blame something versus just the lack of, or I should say 2 kids. My uncle's only a few years older than myself, upstairs in a freaking barn roof, or I should say barn ceiling. I mean, I fell right through like it was nothing. I mean, and it would have happened. I was a 4-year-old child. But in the same token, let's fast forward a few years. Here I am living in Southwest Detroit. My family and I came to the States. We didn't have very much. We didn't have anything at all, to be honest with you. And that's where, my parents could afford to live. And there's not much to say about Detroit. I think everybody in this whole world knows about Detroit, and he knows how rough it is. I mean, I'm not dogging on the city. I grew up there. I spent my life there. But it was rough. It was very rough. I mean, there's not many good things I can say. I had a pretty decent childhood. I grew up, I guess I should say average, but it's directly because of these pigeons that I grew up this way. These birds taught me so much about life. It's unbelievable. And you guys might be laughing thinking, how can this have taught you anything about life? But it does. It kept me out of so much trouble. Kept me out of the gangs. Kept me out of the drugs. It showed me compassion. It showed me, just everything about the pigeons, whether you race or keep them as fancy or whatever you do with your birds, that's fine. It can teach you a little bit about everything. And especially as a child growing up, everybody knows how important a pet is. And it's not like a dog or a cat where the whole family kind of pitches in. The birds were my responsibility and mine solely. If I didn't cut lawns to make $1, I couldn't feed them. When a raccoon got in my cage and killed every single one of my birds, you can imagine. That was a heartbreaker, but that taught me a lot about life. As a young kid, I was, well above my age in terms of maturity. And it's directly affected because of these birds. These birds will bring that. Only people who have pigeons can understand. And to be around them your entire life. There was moments in my life where I was out of the pigeons. When I got married, for instance, I got out of the pigeons for a couple years. And, it wasn't so bad at first because it was a little bit of a relief not having to worry about another, entity to care about. But it only lasted a couple years. Before you know it, I'm at the corner of my street next to the 7-Eleven looking on the lawn, and there's a pigeon, just a regular street pigeon. And I can smell it. I don't know how to explain it. Like, all my senses were so heightened when I saw that bird. I can even smell what a pigeon smells like, what a pigeon loft smells like. And you guys know what I mean. Some of the new guys that stumble across the channel might look at a loft and say, wow, that's really dirty. It's covered in droppings. It probably smells like shit. It really doesn't. Don't get me wrong. There are lofts that are just beyond, smelling like shit. It's bad. But for the most part, as long as it's dry, a pigeon loft's all going to smell the same. It's going to smell like pigeon. And only fanciers know what that smells like. And I can look at that bird. I looked right at my wife and I said, listen, we have to get back in the game. I have to get the birds back. Whether I race or not, whether I keep them for fancy, that's fine. I just need to have that in my life. And my wife was on board. She's my second hand when it comes to the birds. What I can't do, she helps me with. She's not as passionate as I am, but she's just as she takes care of any aspect that I need her to take care of. From, settling my youngsters or weaning the youngsters to helping me train if I need that. And there's definitely I couldn't have done without her. A lot of this, when it comes to racing, there's a lot more involved than just keeping pigeons. A lot more. It's an everyday thing. Raising any animal, whether it's a dog or a pigeon, it's an everyday thing. But when it comes to racing, or when it comes to anything competitive, it's every single day. You have to give them that amount of time. And sometimes it's hard to do because you have family and you don't want to sacrifice that time with your family to give it to the birds. So you have to find a healthy balance. If it's too many birds, get rid of the birds. Or get rid of, the majority so you can have time for yourself and the birds and the family and whatever else you need. Don't overwhelm yourself by just piling them on, getting them from here, getting them from there. It's exciting. I know it is. Getting a new bird is exciting. Getting a basket of new birds is exciting. But you have to find that balance. Before you know it, you're overwhelmed. Your birds are getting sick because the loft can't sustain the amount of pigeon you have in it. And it's an uphill battle. You just can't win. Those things you learn with time, but it's beyond rewarding. It's indescribable what it's like to keep birds, to have that passion, to have that love for the pigeon. And again, it's I race. That's my genre of the game of pigeons. And you can show them as fancy. We all started, even myself. I started with fancies. I started with tipplers and tumblers and fantails and everything else. But something about the racing homer just grabbed me. I don't know how to explain it. It's just everything about it. the pedigrees, the genetics, their ability, the fact that they do these things because you manage them, you were able to bring them to that condition for them to perform for you this way. Because without that, yes, they're homing pigeons, they'll find their way home, but they're not going to race home. If you don't give them those conditions to race home, they're just not going to. It's I don't know. It's like I can keep on sugarcoating it all day long, and until you get into it, you don't know what it's like, and it's super rewarding. So if you guys are really considering it, it's not that hard. Listen, look around. Get on Craigslist. Get on wherever that's in your area. Find somebody that's got the birds and make a friend. Whether it's, like I said, whether it's the racing aspect or the fancy aspect, make a friend. Because before you know it, you'll be going to shows. Before you know it, you'll have your own little flock. Everybody needs a friend in this sport. Just like anything, nobody collects stamps on their own. You need somebody to show those stamps to. You need somebody to enjoy that with. It's camaraderie. It's what we do as humans, not just men or women. It's just as humans, that's what we want to do. We want to share our passions with somebody else. We want like-minded individuals that share that same passion. It's again the same reason I race pigeons, because it's a Friday night thing where I get together with some of my closest friends. We race pigeons. We joke. We compete against each other. Sometimes we make small bets against each other, things of that nature. I mean, it's beyond just keeping birds. But look around, ask around. There's plenty of guys on YouTube that'll help you out. Guys, just ask me any question you guys want. I will help you out. And if I can't, I'll try to direct you to somebody who can. Don't be shy. Don't just sit there and wonder, well, maybe next year. Just get into it. If you got kids, it's a great, pet to introduce a child to. You don't know. I mean, I have 2 boys. Now, whether they'll keep birds or not, who knows? That's on them. I'm not going to force it on them. I don't force them to clean my cages or anything like that. If they want to, they want to. If they don't, no big deal. This is my hobby. They'll have their own. I hope they do. I hope they like to race and I have something I can, bond with my children over. But there'll be other things. Pigeons aren't the only thing. But just look out. I'm telling you, it's not as hard as it seems. Just ask. Make a friend. Most pigeon guys, I would say 90% of pigeon guys are decent individuals. There are some that are in for other reasons, not so much the love of the pigeon, but more maybe the money from the gambling or whatever the case is, maybe the competition, I don't know, whatever their motives are. So there are some individuals that aren't very friendly, but 90% of any person who keeps a pigeon is more than happy to help you out, especially if you're trying to get into it. So make a friend, ask around. It's really not that hard, guys. It's not that hard, and I welcome it. I welcome anybody who needs a hand with anything. I mean, just ask. If I can help, I'll help. If not, I can push you on to somebody who can. You'll be surprised how rewarding this is. I mean, again, for me, from almost losing my life because of them to, I can guarantee you these birds have saved my life. More times than, numerous amount of times. Again, there's no need to talk anymore about Detroit. Everybody knows about Detroit. And it was tough. It was a really tough upbringing. It really was. But these birds have kept me out of a lot of trouble. I am where I am today because of that. I can guarantee you that. And not solely because of the pigeons. Obviously. I don't want you guys to think that that's it, that these birds will do everything for you. And they, but they teach you a lot. As a child, it teaches you so much about life that sometimes you don't get to experience. You don't get to experience the heartache, or you don't get to experience life in general. Just watch a bird lay an egg and hatch it and raise it as a youngster, and now this becomes something new, and you enjoy the colors and every aspect of that. So it's very rewarding, guys. Don't think twice. And again, you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to have a big loft with 100 plus birds. You can have a small loft with 10 pigeons if that's the case. But just know, 10 pigeons within a certain amount of months will become 20, and a couple months later will become 40. And it happens fast. They breed pretty fast. Do your research, call around, make a friend, and I hope it does for you what it did for me. I again thank John for calling me out. I've been trying to make this video for a while. I've been trying to put things on paper because again, I don't edit a lot. You'll see most of my videos are pretty straightforward. I don't spend too much time on editing. I do this purely as a hobby, not as a monetary thing. Some of you guys who are struggling to get views, if that's your end game, again, like I said in the previous videos, guys, spend a little money. take 20, 30, 40 bucks, get yourself a bit of equipment. It's not expensive. YouTube it and make your video quality better. It's not so much how fancy it is as much as the content that you're putting out. Get a tripod, get something to stabilize your camera, sit still, don't just walk around, you know, pointing at the grass or pointing at the trees, because it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch when you put videos out like that. And trust me, I've been there. I've tried to follow certain guys that are coming up with their pigeons, with their YouTube, and it's so hard to watch when you're just walking around the yard aimlessly. Settle it down. And I don't mean to beat you guys up over it, but if this is what you guys want to do, if viewers, you know, subscribers, if that's what you want, then make the content and the quality of your video that much better. And trust me, you'll be there. Don't just push out content to push out content. Push out what you want to push out. And again, stabilize it as best you can. But needless to say, for myself, I want to call out, or I want to tag Dunningville Lofts, Manny Lofts, and my other brother from Seven Hills. I want to call you guys out, make a short video explaining how you got into the birds, how you came about the pigeons, the love of the pigeons, and let's continue. Let's keep it going. Call somebody else out that you want to hear their story, and we'll see where this goes. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I appreciate John for calling me out on it. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll get together somehow. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. It's how the world works. You never know. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one.